Our movie begins in the year 1996 with Jack running in the morning on the sea, and he realizes that there is a game on the beach called Jumanji, and he gives it to his son Alex, who opens it and says that no one is playing this old player now and he doesn't care about it, and he puts it in order to continue playing on his device, and at night comes he worries about a strong light and it disappears the first thing he opens his eyes. When he opens the game to the curious, he finds that inside it is a videotape written on Jumanji, and he tries to play it, and the same green light appears from his room again. Years pass, and we come to the present time, and we go to Spencer, whose mother fears for him about everything in life. He helps his friend Fred with his homework and research, and they meet in front of a house they call the Scary House, and it will be Alex's house. The one in the beginning of the story, after 20 years, and a scary man appears and tells him that the world swallows young men of your age and worries about him, and then he goes to school, and we go to Bethany, who is being punished for talking on the mobile during class, and Martha, who is being punished, that she goes to the school detention because she had a fight with the coach because she saw the school a place to study, not to play. And Fridge's cheating is discovered in assignments and research, and they are punished too, and they all gather in the store, and they are asked to clean it as a punishment for them, but during the cleaning, they take into account that there is a videotape inside it called Jumanji, and they play it. Each one chooses his character in the game, and the character of the pilot remains the character, the only one they can't choose at the beginning of the game. But suddenly the device turns green and starts to vibrate and sparks come out, and Spencer tries to disconnect it from the electricity, but it doesn't disconnect, and they find that their bodies start to disappear, and they pull towards the game, and they all disappear, and suddenly Spencer appears in the form of the character he chose, which is the character of Dr. Preston. And he doesn't understand why his voice changed and his appearance also changed, and suddenly he finds 3 people throwing in front of him, and they also do not understand, and Spencer guesses that these are the characters they chose in the game. He guesses that the short man in front of him is his friend Fridge, and he tells him that he almost entered the game and each one of them appeared as the character he chose in the store before the device pulled them out. And this is what made Spencer appear as Dr. Bravestone, Marcia as Ruby, and Bethany as Dr. Shelley, because she thought Shelley was a female. And she runs terrified towards the water to see what she looks like. She sees that she has turned into a man, and they take into account that they all have tattoos on their hands in the form of 3 lines, and they all fight as if they are trapped inside a toy until a hippopotamus suddenly comes out of the water and eats Chili. And he dies in front of them, but after a minute they find Shelley thrown from the sky and still alive, and Franklin begins to explain the power of the hippopotamus, as if he has experience in animals. They know that the character he chose inside the game is an expert in the animal world, and that is why he knows all this information. He stands in front of them in his car and tells them to ride quickly and introduces himself to them and starts talking about each one of them and says that Dr. Bravestone is the famous archaeologist and international explorer known for his courage and strength, and that Ruby is the killer of men and the expert in martial arts during the dance. And Nigel keeps repeating the same words one after another, like a robot, until they understand that Nigel is a programmed character in the game. Her role is to introduce them to their roles inside the game, and their mission is to lift the curse from the forest, and that all the information is in a letter with a doctor, and a message appears suddenly in his hands, and he begins to read it, and the message tells about Dr. Van, the one who was looking for the legendary tiger statue, and the one who had the tiger's jewel in it, until he found the gem, and instead of doing the research that he wanted to do, he loved that he kept it for himself. But then the dark forces took control of him and he kept controlling all the animals in the forest. So Nigel decided that he stole it from him and gave her hands to a Dr. Preston tells them that they must return it to the tiger statue, and then say Jumanji out loud, so they can exit the game and lift the curse on the forest, and they have in their hands the map of the market from which they will start the first mission and turn there for the missing part. And Bravestone accidentally stomps on his chest, a screen appears showing his strengths and weaknesses, and his strengths are climbing, speed, and the rebound disc, and he has no weaknesses. Ruby is an expert in martial arts and her weakness is gi. Look at the map and find it empty, but Shelley tells them that the map is clear in front of her, and they understand that Shelley is the only one who can see the map because among her talents is the science of drawing maps. But Ruby saves her and Franklin brings from his bag the wooden bow in his hand to Dr. Preston to throw it at the gang, but it does not hit them, and they continue running until the bow turns in the air and returns to detonate part of the gang. And he has to carry Franklin because he is so slow that they are trapped and they have to jump into the water. And when they get out, Ruby is injured and dies in front of them, and they think that she is dead, but she comes down again from the sky after a minute, and they understand that the tattoos on their hands are 3 attempts at life, and if they finish, they may die. They will not turn out to be a game forever. And they want to go to the bathroom, and Bethany admires how easy it is for her now that she's a boy, and she wishes that she could share on Instagram now. After that there is a fight and Franklin throws Bravestone off the mountain and he loses a life, and they warn that if we do this, we will die each other and we will not get out of the game. The market, and they meet a man who sells bread and they like its taste, and because Franklin is very hungry, and he asks the baker about its ingredients, and he tells him that this is not bread, this is the most famous cake he makes in the market, and they are all afraid because they know that his weak point is the cake, and suddenly it explodes in front of them and falls again from the sky. And this is how one of them lost his life and survived with only 2 attempts. But a child comes and tells him that he will come after them, and at the same time there will be a bird watching them, and the child tells them that what they want is inside this basket. And the first time he opens the basket, he comes out tired and attacks Ruby, but they hold on at the last moment. And Franklin tells them that there is no solution except that he pulls out its fangs. And he really succeeds in the basket. They find something wrapped in a small elephant statue and a piece of paper. That says that as soon as they see the elephant, they start climbing. The gang quickly reaches the market and they try to escape. After Bravestone destroys some of them, they find that Russell and all his gang threaten them with weapons to hand over the jewel, and before they shoot them, you throw a smoke bomb at them and someone helps them escape. And he puts them in a tunnel full of traps, and he knows very well. And when they get out, they ask him if he was the pilot they tried to choose at the beginning of the game at all, and they could not. This means that a real character happened to him the same as what happened to them. So they know that he really is, and that he has been in the game for months, locked in it, and cannot get out. Because he couldn't pass a difficult stage in the game and he gave up trying. After he lost 2 chances of life, and whoever remains has only 1. And he goes to the next mission. Who is not already can't knew how to pass it alone. It is storming the pilot's warehouse, which will help them reach the legendary tiger statue. And they turn to Ruby to try to distract the guards. Shelly teaches her how to get their attention. And Mac tells them that she will definitely succeed because she is beautiful, almost an actress. And when he says her name, he draws their attention to a certain thing and asks him about the year that Alex does not think he was in, and he says to him, "Aren't we in 1996? And they understand that Mac is Alex, the one who was in the first movie, who disappeared 20 years ago from the scary house and did not feel all the time that passed inside the game, and thought that he had been there for months, and was very shocked by their words that he was 20 years old inside the game. But they are trying to reassure him and that they will get him out of this game." And Ruby starts to distract the guards while the team enters the store of planes, but she fails, so she uses her talent in fighting and is able to beat and eliminate them. And the team succeeds in taking the plane before the gang attacks them, but from the frequent shooting of the plane, she gets injured and Mac loses control of it, and a herd of rhinos appears to them. He runs after them under the ground. And Mac tells them that someone must go and install the iron through which he controls the plane, and he is forced to try to fix this iron by himself, and with difficulty he succeeds in fixing the plane at the last moment. But the plane tilts, so the jewel falls out of the bag, so they have to return to it again to look for it, and they find the herd trying to protect it. He looks at Franklin's hand and finds that he still has 2 chances in life, so he throws him out of the plane because the herd runs after him. And then he can take the jewel and the herd runs over him and he dies and falls from the sky. But they can catch him from the sky, the plane, before it falls to the ground. And after the plane lands, they think about the new stage. But a mosquito comes and bites Alex. And what will be his weak point is mosquitoes. And he falls in front of them, and his last chance of life begins to disappear from his hands. And Shelly tries to give him artificial respiration. So she finds one of her chances of life that she wipes off her hand and leaves for Alex. So she sacrifices her and continues, and indeed, she saves his life, and she feels that she has changed for the better from an hour when she no longer has a phone, and they continue with a sense of the tiger statue. And they reach an area called Defenders, and whoever draws them a path in front of them with fire, but Bravestone tells them that it is a trap. And they see an elephant in front of them. Shelly thinks of the saying, when you see an elephant, start climbing, and Prevestin climbs into a tree, but a squirrel bites it, so it falls, and a tiger attacks it and kills it, and there is only one life left with it. Alone, and the tigers are all running after him, but he knows how to get rid of them. But he finds Russell. He kidnapped Shelley as a hostage, and he threatens to hand over the jewel, or he will kill her, and that she is no longer with her but one life only. But Peggy and Franklin is a rider on a big elephant, and he can control him because the jewel stays with him. Russell hits a shot that hits the elephant in the air, and it is the reason that the jewel is thrown away from Franklin's hand, and Ruby tells him that he is starting to climb the statue, and she knows how to get the gem. And she goes towards the jewel, but she is in the midst of a lot of fatigue, and it is her weak point in the poison. So he besieges her. She tells him that her weak point is poison, and that she still has 2 life chances, and she makes Taban pinch her. And she dies, and she disappears with the jewel, and of course she comes down from the sky, and Preston has arrived. He puts the jewel in its place, but nothing happens, and this is because they forgot to call out the name of the game, and they all call out with one voice, Jumanji, and they succeed in finishing the game and lifting the curse from the forest, and Russell disappears exactly, and Nigel comes to them to congratulate them on their success in removing the curse and greets them, and they all disappear from the game one after the other, but he keeps himself, preferring in the game because he loved his character in the game more than the truth. But in the end he had to come back, and they all appeared in the school. And they run to Alex's house to check on what happened, and instead of the scary house that they know, they find a beautiful house, and they meet someone who came down from the Arab, and he started remembering them and getting to know them as if he had seen them a very long time ago. And this person is Alex, but he has grown 20 years old, because the game brought him back to the same year in which he disappeared, meaning that he came back 20 years before they came back, got married, and had a daughter whom he named Bethany. So he keeps remembering her because she was the reason she saved his life, and he confesses to Martha that he loves her, and they decide that they break the game so that they don't play it again.